Could European soccer relegation come to college football? The NFL sees a 2% viewership increase through the first 2 weeks of the season, while the Tampa Bay Rays at long last unveil a long-awaited new ballpark proposal. And is spring football about to merge once again to join other leagues that have merged in 2023? It's another week and another Thursday edition of Press Row right here on Coast to Coast, coming your way right now.
Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
And with that, everybody, a pleasant good Thursday afternoon, and welcome into week number 2 and episode 2, for that matter, of Press Row right here on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. We are talking all things involving sports media and sports business and behind-the-scenes news that you probably will not find anywhere else, courtesy of our great sources over at Front Office Sports and AwfulAnnouncing.com. Yours truly, Callan McClurg, joining you today at around 12:50 in the afternoon Pacific time on this Thursday, September 21st, 2023, for our second full episode here of Press Row. We're going to try our best, folks, to keep things somewhat brief here this afternoon. Quick scheduling heads up for you folks due to scheduling conflicts with me coming up next week and also the week after, where we will, though, be missing out on a couple of shows coming up over the next 2 weeks. So, again, keep your eyes glued to our social platforms for updates about when our next program will be live. And again, we thank you all so much for being here today and for joining us as we, again, folks, dive into sports media, sports business, and other sports nuances here on this Thursday. Again, folks, we had a great first show last Thursday with our viewership. So again, if you are in fact watching us live here today via the Coast to Coast YouTube channel, the Facebook page, or what have you, again, fire away with your live questions, comments, or your concerns. Again, we'll do our absolute best to make sure that your commentary is read live on the air on this Thursday afternoon. But again, folks, once more, we just wanted to kind of throw that quick schedule note out for you real quick. Again, I have a few pretty, not major events, but a few big events coming up, though, over the course of the next week or two. Again, we're getting into somewhat of the nitty-gritty of the college season for soccer and volleyball, and games will be played beginning on Thursdays every so often here. So, again, we'll be somewhat a little bit hit or miss as we, in fact, dive more into what, of course, is going on in the here with our program here on Coast to Coast. And I was very glad to be able to hop on last night and help out on Sports Minute. And again, as another program reminder, we will have a special Thursday edition of our wrestling show, Between the Ropes, at around 9 o'clock Pacific time this evening. With that, folks, getting into our hot off the press story here this afternoon. Again, that is discussion right now that there could be European soccer style promotion and relegation coming into college football. Per Front Office Sports sources, the latest round of conference realignment has left group of 5 schools in Pac-12 leftovers, Oregon State and Washington State, wondering how to remain competitive and maintain conference stability. And they're now considering an idea most commonly used in sports across the pond, both promoting and relegating teams from different tiers. This idea has been broached by Boise State Associate AD Michael Walsh, who has come up with what is believed to be the first formal proposals on a promotion and relegation subject. He has written a in-depth plan for a 3-tiered alliance of at least 24 FBS programs in college football in 3 Western-based time zones: the Pacific time zone, the Mountain time zone, and Central time zone, with the opportunity for promotion and relegation at the end of every college football season. The 22-slide PowerPoint obtained and reviewed by Front Office Sports has been shared with athletic directors in and out of the conference as well, as Mountain West Conference Commissioner Gloria Navarez, who tells FOS many folks are kicking around concepts of relegation, promotion, or mega leagues or conferences, but this is probably the first I've seen of someone really putting pen to paper and looking at it comprehensively. It's simple as this. Walsh's goal is to create a lucrative football package while allowing the other Olympic sports to avoid the coast-to-coast travel now required in Power 4 leagues. The proposal begins by telling athletics officials to control what you can control. In reference to the power conferences, it asked, do you want to be at the kids' table under the same roof or eating at a different establishment? The plan will call for what is going on in European soccer. Teams would be promoted or relegated at the end of every season based upon their season performance. For example, the worst placed team in Tier 1 would be moved down to Tier 2, and the conference champion of Tier 2 would take its place in Tier 1. A.D. Walsh also suggests that the Mountain West and the Pac-12, as well as other regional teams from the AAC, Conference USA, or even the WAC could also participate. All other sports, including men's basketball, would remain in their current conferences in order to fully maximize the opportunity for NCAA postseason automatic qualifiers. The first football tier could be a fifth power conference, though Walsh noted that decision would ultimately lie with both the College Football Playoff Committee and the NCAA, who award the designation for voting power and revenue distribution. Proposal also suggests that modest bonuses based on a base sum for each tier, performance bonuses, and a specific bonus for quote-unquote tier status. The amount of this revenue, however, would depend on the media contract. Walsh also suggested the alliance target NBC and Peacock, Amazon and Apple as partners, given that they've already shown an interest in college football, but have much less inventory than Fox, ESPN, and CBS. Though it could take months, though, to see if this would actually work or pan out. This is interesting, and I also believe that this might be a step in the right direction. If anyone out there has known me and has heard my commentary on various podcast outlets, you, I think, probably know very well that I have been one of the very few believers who does not believe that conference realignment is going to help, because we're talking about the cross-country travel for revenue generating sports, the Olympic sports as they call them. But this is, I think, only the second time since all of this, all these machinations and the wheels have been moving with the realignment issues, that there's been somebody out there other than myself and the Missouri head football coach who have seen what has gone on. Again, OU, Texas leaving, the Pac-12 basically on its deathbed with two schools left. Who knows what happens with them? But that there's other people out there that somewhat share the same views and opinions as I do, that, yeah, it's great for the football program, but why are we leaving out the baseball team, the softball team, our soccer teams, track and field, leaving out sports that, again, don't draw or have as much impact on our program as the football team does for 6 to 8 to 9 weeks out of the year, where, again, baseball has a longer schedule, basketball has a longer schedule with games being played, but also you're factoring in the multitude of times that teams and programs are making, or soon to be making, extremely long-range travel to the Midwest or East Coast to play their games. And again, I think it's more of a toll being taken, or more of the hits are being absorbed by the baseball teams, the softball teams, soccer, cross country even. I know that they also run or compete once a week, but still, like, a lot of these team sports, though, are going to be taking more of the blows than the football program, because football, it's a once a week thing. Baseball, softball, other sports, it's like multiple days out of the week that you're traveling. Now you have to factor leaving even earlier to go play games 2-3 time zones away from where you're at, as opposed to maybe like leaving a day or two beforehand, maybe 2 days beforehand, to at least get to the destination, get settled, and then try and have a practice or a walkthrough, and then go and play in the game. So as it, though, boils down to promotion and relegation, I still think we're crossing over a gray area here because, as I mentioned last Thursday, as much as Jason was on board with MLS going to a promotion relegation system, I still don't think that there's a proper way right now for a league like MLS going on 30 teams in 2 years to attempt promotion and relegation for their league. I think you would have to have a much bigger footprint, a much bigger league footprint to be able to attempt to even go the route of that. But with this system, though, I actually kind of dig this system again. You're looking at 24 schools, all within an hour or two time zones of each other, but also creating a football package for television, but also trying to help the Olympic sports not make as many trips out of the time zone or across country again. Big Ten this year or next year, adding in, for example, USC and UCLA. Cal and Stanford going to the ACC next season. However, though, I still think that I actually applaud Michael Walsh because other than the Missouri head football coach, like I said, though, the Missouri head football coach and Michael Walsh of Boise State, other than myself, are like the only two other people that I have actually seen in some capacity, kind of in a roundabout way, say, I'm not fully on board with all this realignment, but I have like a constellation prize. And more than anything else, I'm actually happy that somebody out there put the pen to paper, as Commissioner Navarro said with the Mountain West Conference, that there's somebody out there who actually sat down at their desk and drafted plans to see if they could maybe make this thing work, though. I'm all for this, though. But again, I think we're crossing a gray area because the casual American sports fan, other than myself, does not quite get the whole thing of like, well, so you lose, you finish in a certain place in the standings, they move you down a tier to like a lower league. Like, isn't that kind of like a bit like embarrassing or like an insult to the team? Like, I can see that kind of being a thing. So unless you actually have people dialed into the European soccer fandom, again, I'm very casual about European soccer because I don't get up at 5 a.m. to watch games. I do the watch if they're on like around 8 or 9 a.m. local time here in San Diego. And I really just watch this to watch the game more than anything else. But I do wonder that we are kind of crossing the bit of that gray area, sadly, where I think that fans become a little bit not confused, but I think that they would probably, in a way, take offense if their school, who's not good in football, they have a miserable season and they get moved down to tier 3 or tier 2. Like, it feels like it's a big insult or like a big slap in the face. Like, well, you can't win, so we have to move you down to, like lesser competition. Again, I know that may sound ludicrous, but I just think that we're kind of begin blurring the lines of what maybe the American sports fan is used to with the regular standings. Again, we're not literally moving we're not moving teams or schools out of their conference to like a lesser conference because they didn't win a game all season. So though I think it is a great idea, and again, I am absolutely thrilled that Michael Walsh, the associate AD at Boise State, actually is looking out for the other programs who are going to be affected by all this cross-country travel, the Olympic sports out there. Though it sounds promising on paper, I think it's going to be really difficult for them to actually implement this because it's not the fact of like schools joining for like members joining. I'm just more concerned, though, that a lot of fans, a lot of athletic departments could take offense, though, to joining this new like football alliance or whatever you want to call it with this European soccer, relegation promotion sort of ordeal. And it doesn't get off the ground. Then you also have fans, maybe, for that matter, too, maybe even players, feel kind of insulted because they have a losing season and they get moved out of like tier 1, for example, and they get knocked down to tier 2 or tier 3, and you have to basically work your way back up, and again, especially I think though, folks, it's a lot harder to do relegation promotion in college athletics because even though the transfer portal has kind of like been almost in a way like a de facto free agency for college athletics, though, recruiting, I think, is what is still going is recruiting is still what I believe it would not make this work because yeah, you may have like a promising, local standout like in your high school somewhere or at your high school, but who's not to say that like an Alabama, a Georgia, a Michigan, for example, reaches out and heavily wants this player that they would not want to play, for example, or that they get lured away because it's Saban, it's Kirby Smart, it's Dabo Sweeney, it's Jim Harbaugh, as opposed to maybe staying somewhere close to home as a part of this new, whatever you want to call it, though, with this promotion relegation system. That even despite what's been put out, though, I don't quite see this getting off the ground and running for the fact of I'm not sure there's a way that you can implement that you can really, I think, implement this sort of system. Even though I'm fully on board with it for the fact of like, hey, we actually have people looking out right now, for other sports. And that's been the one calamity or the one thing that has really, I think, made me say out loud that I did not think that realignment was going to work was because of the fact that this was mainly done to cater to college football programs and not to the rest of the athletic department. So, folks, give me your thoughts here again. Potential European soccer promotion and relegation in college football. Give me your thoughts on that. Again, Boise State's associate AD, Michael Walsh, has created a very interesting three-tiered alliance of 24 FBS members across 3 time zones, the Pacific time zone, Mountain time zone, and Central time zone, with promotion and relegation taking place at the end of every season, while creating a football package while also allowing the Olympic sports to avoid making further coast-to-coast travel a thing at this rate. But again, I'm not fully on board, though I do like the idea. Still, though, I think there's a very small pocket out there who would say, well, we had a losing season and we just got like insulted by we got embarrassed and insulted that they moved us to a like lesser tier, like a lesser conference, basically to play college football. So again, there is some good, there is some bad, there is some in the middle. But again, folks, give us your thoughts here again. Potential European soccer promotion and relegation coming perhaps to college football. Again, per Boise State's associate AD, Michael Walsh, who actually put pen to paper and again is calling for a potential 3-tiered alliance of 24 programs to do a promotion relegation style season. They would basically bump teams up a tier, bump teams down a tier after every season, and create a better viewing package, but also allowing the Olympic sports or non-revenue generating sports to avoid making more coast-to-coast travel. With that, folks, as we begin week 3 of the NFL season, the NFL has reported a small, minute, but still, though, impressive 2% viewership increase through the first 2 weeks of the regular season. With that, the NFL averaged about 17.5 million average viewers on television and via linear streaming, which is a 2% increase. It is also the highest average viewers that they have garnered since 2018, and also coming out recently. But ABC is also set to continue to show Monday Night Football simulcast this year due to the ongoing Hollywood actor and writer strike still going on up in Hollywood again. There's been a major pause again hit with potential fall shows debuting, and that right now ABC will be showing more of the ESPN simulcast of the Monday Night Football games to fill that those time slots right now that are right now not being utilized because of the ongoing labor strike in actor and writer strike up in Hollywood. As much as everyone probably knows, as much as I am not the biggest NFL, not the biggest football fan, there's no denying, folks, that the NFL is king of the American sports calendar every year. And it's becoming a thing now where it is essentially year-round coverage now, from the end of the Super Bowl, draft day, the combine, the draft, into the preseason, into the regular season, and of course the playoffs, and of course the big papa that is the Super Bowl. But it still, though, folks, is very, I think, amazing. And even though, like I said, folks, I'm not a big football fan, but you have to give credit where credit is due, though, that the NFL makes their product accessible 24/7, 365, and they have done things, I think, the right way when it comes to their media deals, their streaming platform deals, the Red Zone channel, how fantasy sports and wagering has further helped grow interest in the NFL and football for that matter. That the 2% increase, though it's small, though, 17.5 million people on average are watching NFL games every given Thursday, Sunday, Monday, you name it. And now that they're trying their best to add their, to put their stamp on every day of the week now this year, Black Friday, Christmas Day, that though it may feel like it's a sports monopoly being built by the NFL, it does, in my mind, feel that way. But you have to respect the heck, though, out of the NFL for how they are just out here doing their damnedest to get their product out there. Now, I know that now, again, folks, I can't really speak a whole lot about how the NFL is, in a non-NFL market because of San Diego not having a franchise after the Chargers bolted, pun intended, for Los Angeles in 2016. But still being in radius of the Rams and Chargers. We get their games every single week here in San Diego. We get, the Chargers in the afternoon or the Rams in the afternoon on Fox or CBS. I know a lot of fans here that used to be football fans, always are clamoring, why do we have to watch the Chargers? Move, get them off my television. I don't care about this franchise anymore. Show somebody else, though. But again, it's a lot like the issue, not an issue, but more like Major League Baseball not showing Angel and Dodger games here in San Diego because the Padres have the exclusive rights to the Padre broadcasting rights, that you can't watch anybody else unless you watch MLB Network or you have extra innings or you have MLB.TV to watch games at a market. And for the longest time, me and my family have only had, we would only get the 4 games. You'd get the morning slate, the afternoon slate, and of course the primetime game on Sunday, and of course Monday and then Thursday, via watching on Prime Video now and stuff of that caliber. But still, though, folks, almost 18 million people out there. 17 and a half, round it up if you want to. But again, average viewership of 17.5 million viewers watching NFL football on any given Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, day of the week, you name it. Again, I think it's more of credit has to be given to how the NFL keeps themselves relevant, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, year round. And I think I know a lot of my friends out there who live and die with the NFL, not so much here in San Diego because of the Chargers leaving, but members of Coast to Coast who, again, watch a lot of football, is that the NFL is it's a media mogul, media machine, media giant, whatever you want to call it, that I don't think we've ever seen a sport just severely outclass the other the other leagues by such a wide margin every single day, let alone the fact every year, because we just don't see this sort of thing happening. But again, I think it's a credit to how the NFL keeps their name out there, even over the offseason. They're showing old games. They have full coverage of the draft combine, free agency, and I think, folks, that the only other sport I feel like that is even maybe a very close, but still very distant second, might be the NBA or even Major League Baseball. I've long felt that way, that there's really no true second place league doing things how the NFL is doing their product. Not mainly on the field with their product, but I'm talking keeping everything or everyone in the loop, though. Both baseball and the NHL kind of in a way don't do as much television coverage during the off season. They'll get started in spring training or during the hot stove season for baseball. Hockey, I think, is starting up here this week with training camp opening up today. Basketball, I think it'll be another few weeks before even the NBA begins to really, I think, start taking shape with their coverage. But the NFL, they don't care. They don't care if it is, the first week of the season or we are 6 weeks into the NFL offseason. they are still keeping everybody in the loop, though, about moves, old game telecasts, and still, though, just having like fresh content to digest and talk about, on a podcast or at the bar with your friends or stuff of that caliber. That's more of like where I come from, is seeing that that the NFL is just out there. And I think that it's a 2% increase in viewership though, but you're still raking in nearly 18 million viewers to watch two teams that they probably don't have any interest in. But again, that goes to the other element of my point here. The growth of fantasy sports and the colossal sized boom of sports wagering, though it's not legal out here in California, but still, you see the lines. You have all the prop bets, all the parlays are being played, though. So much money is being invested in fantasy football leagues via as well with gambling, with MGM or with FanDuel, DraftKings, Underdog Fantasy, you name it. That this is why the NFL is where they're at, though. That's why the NFL is so successful. Again, even though I'm not the biggest NFL fan or football fan in general, you have to, I think, again, just give credit where credit is due, though, for a league who has been doing it the right way. Maybe not on the field with their, maybe not on the field or even off the field, though, but it doesn't matter. People still tune in again. And mainly, I would probably say a high majority of those average viewers are more of like, I wouldn't really say like full-blown NFL fans. They probably root for their team, but they're not like living and dying like this is the Eagles or the Cowboys, the Patriots, thinking of some big market franchises. But maybe like casual sports fans, maybe like low key, not beyond, not overboard or overzealous NFL fans, but people who do in fact have money on games. Fantasy teams are involved and stuff of that caliber, that I think that's what's also driving the NFL's viewership, is that people are watching, okay, how's my QB doing? How's my running back doing? How are the wide receivers doing? How's my defense doing? And then maybe checking a parlay as well, like, okay, how many, who won here, who won there? I think it's also just with the fact that the NFL, you have so many different things you can do during the course of a NFL season. Again, survivor pools, fantasy, pigskin pick'ems, picking who wins every week, though. Like the NFL just does so many different things, or there's so many different ways to get involved that are for money, that I think that's also pushing and driving more of the viewership to where the NFL is right now. And I think that as the year goes on, I think we're going to have more stories of like, hey, bigger increase in week 7 or in week 15. I also think as the year goes on, though, we're probably going to have more and more and more discussion about how ratings have gone up or viewers have gone up, because once you get down to the nitty gritty, like week 17, week 18, that becomes a very, very, very big thing, because now teams are going to be obviously looking to jostle for, they're going to be jockeying for playoff positioning. Fantasy football playoffs are coming around the corner. And then, of course, the Super Bowl, you're going to have everyone filling out, buying squares, for fundraisers or for shits and giggles, basically. That's why I think the NFL is the far superior media-driven league. And it's hard for me to find another league remotely close. Baseball, I don't think is close. The NBA might be pretty close. The NHL, close. MLS, though, on streaming platforms, I would think so, with Lionel Messi coming here. But it's going to be very hard for another league to truly overtake the NFL. Much like I said last week, that it would be hard for Undisputed to top First Take. It's going to be really hard for any other sports league, I think, to truly dethrone the NFL as the king of the American sports fans calendar. Again, the NBA might be close, the NHL might be close, MLB maybe, MLS maybe, but I don't really think, though, that it's that will be happening anytime soon. Over, folks, in Major League Baseball, at long last, the Tampa Bay Rays, after 25 years of being a franchise, have finally unveiled a long-awaited new ballpark proposal, per Tampa Bay Rays owner Stu Sternberg, who acknowledged and told FOS with some gallows humor the long path his team has taken or took to reach Tuesday's announcement of a brand new $1.3 billion deal to build a new ballpark in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's mercifully over. He did say and tell reporters, quote, "It has not been an easy road. While our commitment to remain in Tampa Bay has been steadfast, the journey here has been a bumpy one for sure," open and close quote. That bumpy journey has led the Rays to a landmark deal to build and develop a new 30,000-seat ballpark as part of a larger 86-acre multi-mixed-use development property in the St. Petersburg gas plant district. The Rays will shell out $700 million plus any cost overruns, while the public sector will fork out $600 million. The Dome ballpark will also include natural lighting, contrasting with the dark, often depressing Tropicana Field sightlines. Advancing well beyond several prior supposed stadium deals, Tampa Bay's agreement looks to finally answer the thorny question of the club's future in Tampa and opens up MLB to the highly anticipated possibilities of expanding the league. The deal also gives the Rays a much more solid financial footing and ends years of ongoing relocation rumors. Since the club debuted 25 years ago in '98, the Rays have ranked last or near last in the AL attendance 18 times in 25 seasons, even with them consistently fielding competitive teams and are typically one of MLB's lowest spending franchises. The club officials foresee an economic transformation with their new ballpark project. Folks, I'll tell you what. I could not be more enthused for the great people of St. Petersburg, Florida, and who have supported the Tampa Bay Devil and now Tampa Bay Rays for 25 years, to finally see their hard work and their support of this franchise come to fruition with this great announcement on Tuesday. However, I also do see the other side, though, with our friends in Oakland with the Athletics, the Chargers in San Diego, the Rams in St. Louis, and the Browns in Cleveland, that this also in a way hurts. That you have seen a club, and folks, in no way, shape, form, or size do I want to make this sound like I am bitter about the Rays getting this deal. But I'm also comparing and contrasting that this happens here, and yet, though, we have a potential other MLB franchise in Oakland with their own mess right now, with the Athletics perhaps going to Las Vegas, Nevada around the same time this new ballpark may open. And it also opens up the wounds of the Chargers going to LA, the Rams going back to LA from St. Louis, and Art Modell moving the Browns to Baltimore and becoming the Baltimore Ravens. However, though, this is what has been sorely needed in Tampa Bay. Though I know that Oakland has had their woes, I don't think it has been as bad as what we were hearing out of Tampa Bay with the Rays, for the sheer fact of the rumors of them moving out, the rumors of them playing half the year in Tampa and half the year in Montreal to explore maybe going back to Montreal to become the Expos again. I really applaud Stu Sternberg for him not really letting the dream of keeping the Rays in Tampa die. Because we think of Art Modell, we think of Jim Irsay moving the Colts to Indianapolis overnight, Modell moving the Browns to Baltimore, the Spanos family, Dean mainly, moving the Chargers to LA, the Cronkies moving the Rams back to LA from St. Louis. We never really hear about an owner like a Stu Sternberg who never stopped fighting for his club and for the fan base of the Rays, who, again, despite cheap ownership, despite a horrible ballpark, despite all the hurdles that the Rays have made all this work with, a bad payroll and consistently being in the bottom tier of the attendance for the American League, that all those years of hard work, sacrifices being made, and to see a team who may have been like on the fringe of maybe bolting or leaving Tampa because they could not get a stadium deal done, to see all of that hard work finally pay off. And knowing that Stu Sternberg even said, I will pay out of my pocket to keep this club in Tampa, speaks volumes about the kind of man that Stu Sternberg is, but also it is a credit, I think, to the fans. Though, again, I know that they've had a lot of miserable years. I've heard a lot of stories about how bad the ballpark has been down there, but the Rays fans have, they've made this work. Now, for the ballpark itself, though, I'm ecstatic. 86 acres of property, 30,000 seats. They're looking to build almost like not really a full-blown transparent roof, though, but similar, I would say, to maybe what's been built in Inglewood with the Rams and Chargers. Maybe even, almost, judging by the concept art, folks, it almost looks like it's a bit of a mashup of Lone Depot Park in Miami and almost like Rogers Center in Toronto, how they have like a lot of like glass windows in center field. Above the batter's eye and stuff. They have a couple of scoreboards off to the left and right. 30,000 seats. It looks like it's about a 4 or 5 story stadium and stuff of that caliber. But again, this is sorely needed. And again, I really wish, though, that there was a way that this could have been resolved too in Oakland. Again, this is, again, coming from someone who saw their NFL team leave after, first grade up until 2016. So practically 15 years of my life was about the Chargers staying in San Diego or going to Los Angeles or leaving town. But now, though, that also, I think, kind of does raise that question, though, folks, about, okay, now that the Rays are going to stay in Tampa, does this open the door for MLB to expand? Because we talked last Thursday about the potential chance of Atlanta being in the market right now for building a new 18,000-seat NHL arena, even though Atlanta has already failed twice. Not their fault, sadly, but ownership's fault that the NHL never worked in Atlanta twice in a row. But now, though, it's about MLB expanding. And I know that there is, the whole thing about the A's going to Vegas. Maybe there's some other clubs out there who might be for sale, who might want to look elsewhere. But frankly, if you expand, because I know for a fact right now we're looking at Portland, Oregon, Charlotte, North Carolina, Montreal, and I believe Nashville. So those are 4 potential markets. Could MLB go to all 4, or do they go to 2? Regardless of what they choose to do, that will bring up the topic or debate about the league realigning. And I think that's also a thing that's been talked about, where you almost don't even need to have a American League and National League, though I think that they probably want it, though, just to kind of like, differentiate the different leagues, and stuff. But does this become a like conference-based play like the NBA and NHL and MLS? Does it become conferences with divisions? Almost in a way, it would feel like, though, if baseball goes to 32 teams, you may have to look at the NHL for how they did their league when they added the Golden Knights and the Kraken, where you would basically realign, and we basically will see what goes on from there, though. But I have wondered that, though, because I kind of think, though, folks, that the 2020 COVID season kind of maybe was a bit of like a teaser, a little like, preview maybe of what might be down the line or down the pipeline for Major League Baseball when they add, if and when they add new expansion franchises of like, not necessarily 10-team divisions, but like almost like what's going on in college realignment right now. But like the AL and NL West become a division or a conference, AL East, NL East, AL Central, like that kind of becomes a thing here. And frankly, I would not mind that being a thing. Padres, Dodgers, Angels, the Giants, the A's if they're in Vegas, the Mariners, maybe the team in Portland, Arizona, Colorado, Houston, Texas, But again, though, if that becomes a 32-team league, though, do you go the NFL route with multiple 4-team divisions only? So Padres, Angels, Dodgers, Vegas, or Arizona, or do you go the route of the NHL where you basically would go like San Diego, LA, Anaheim, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, Vegas? Like, again, there's a lot of like different ways you could go here with expansion. However, though, folks, again, for the Rays, though, I think it's a very well earned, well deserved breath of fresh air that the Rays get this ballpark project done. Again, folks, the Rays finally, after a long and winding road, have a $1.3 billion deal with the city of St. Petersburg for a brand new ballpark, a 30,000-seat ballpark being built on 86 acres of property in a mixed-use development site. The public sector will fork out over $600 million, though, but Rays owner Stu Sternberg has already confirmed to FOS that he will fork out overruns and $700 million plus the overruns for construction of the new ballpark, if and when time does allow. A couple of thoughts from my good man Sean Mears, who says the hardest working announcer on the West Coast. I've got the East Coast wrapped up. Glad to hear again, Sean. He also says that the Rays ballpark is extremely outdated. Sean, I would agree. Sadly, man, it's like I said though earlier in the segment here, my man. The fact that Oakland and Tampa both were in the same boat, and yet the Rays get something done before the A's get anything done in Vegas or even in Oakland. But also, I've heard, sadly, both ballparks, Sean, are in the same exact predicament. Outdated, aging, no modern amenities, a lot of problems like with sewage, the roof leaking in Tampa, stuff of that caliber, from hurricanes or stuff, stuff like that, basically. And sadly, I think that is why the Rays have been. And again, I'm not pinning any of this, by the way, Sean, on the play on the field. Again, the Rays have been like, 6 straight playoff appearances for like 6 straight playoff appearances for them. This is in no way, shape, form, or size any discredit or anything negative towards the team on the field. Maybe it's geared towards the front office, though, for the long wait, though, with the ballpark proposal. But it's not the on-field product's fault for why fans haven't come. From what I've been told, Sean, by friends who have gone to games there, it's kind of like in a secluded area away from like actual Tampa, Florida, in the suburbs. A bit hard to get to. Parking is a bit tough. Public transit is also tough to get to or get to the ballpark with. And that's part of the reason why it kind of looks, like why the attendance looks so frail is because of stuff like that. And Sean Ferber says, despite Charlotte maybe being a team, Charlotte has AAA baseball. It may be a conflict. To your point, Sean, that's also the issue right now in Las Vegas with the Athletics looking at building their own 30,000-seat ballpark on the current site of the Tropicana Casino right now. Their AAA team is in Las Vegas. And I think that the rumor that I've been hearing for a while is if the A's do leave Oakland, I believe there was a offer for them to play in the ballpark that the Aviators, their AAA club, plays in, or even share Oracle Park in San Francisco with the hated Giants. I do not see that coming to fruition whatsoever, because there is no way, I personally think there is no way, that you can make 2 Major League Baseball teams work in the same stadium. Yes, I know the Yankees and Mets did that for a bit with either the Polo Grounds or Shea for a bit. And even the Dodgers and Angels did that for the first, I want to say, 4 years of the Angels coming into Major League Baseball when they shared Dodger Stadium, a.k.a. Chavez Ravine. So though it might be a conflict, though, Sean, it may be a temporary home for a la the Chargers and Rams going back to Los Angeles, but they played at the LA Coliseum or Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson. They played at a temporary facility until their new stadiums did get built. Obviously, with SoFi finally getting built, though. So though it might be a conflict, I would think, though, that they would have to come in and really, cater to that AAA ball club with maybe that they add money in to renovate the facility. Maybe they add in, better compensation for the players. So again, though, Sean, excellent point made, though, that it does, though, I think raise some eyebrows. Like, can you really make this work, though, by going the route of maybe putting a major league club in a AAA market right now? And would they be able to coexist? That, sadly, Sean, is sadly why the USL soccer team here in San Diego is folding up shop after 4 years when their season ends, though, is because MLS is coming down the pipeline in 2 years. And right now, there would not have been a way for the USL club to really, I think, thrive with Major League Soccer again. The Major League product being here, along with the minor league product, as USL Pro or a USL Championship is right now. And it sucks that it's come to fruition at this rate. With that, folks, our final story for the day here again, the ongoing spring football dilemma of the XFL and USFL merging could also see markets and teams dropped from the league and even a change of the league's name, per a report just coming out about 10 minutes ago on Front Office Sports. If the merger finalizes, the Extreme Football League and the US Football League, and their merger might only include some of the 16 franchises in the combined league, a joint statement or a story, I should say, written by journalist James Larson concerning the XFL and USFL. He says, per a report regarding a USFL-XFL merger, it is likely that we do not see all 16 teams in action per source, hearing that organizations without venues currently secured are in hot water, open and close quote. Larson has been a spring football insider of the outlets, or for the outlets of both the United States Football League newsroom and the XFL newsroom, adds that the leagues are pursuing a new league name as part of their merger discussions that would include a newly launched logo and brand for the combined league. Other reports coming in on Tuesday that both leagues expect to merge before their 2024 seasons kick off next spring. The discussed deal would likely see Fox and Disney split the broadcast rights of the combined league, with Fox Corp owning and broadcast the USFL, while the XFL is owned by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Danny Garcia, and Redbird Capital Partners, with games being shown on ESPN, ESPN Plus, and ABC. A combined league would also likely shrink to 10 to 12 teams, according to Larson. As for a potential new name, the NSFL is a trademark owned right now by Fox, and it stands for the National Spring Football League, which could be a naming candidate if the merger does go through. XFL insider Michael Lathrop lists the XFL's Houston Roughnecks and Vegas Vipers, as well as the USFL's Houston Gamblers, New Jersey Generals, the New Orleans Breakers, Philadelphia Stars, and Pittsburgh Maulers as teams that face uncertain futures and could be left out of the combined league in the event of the league merger. I wrote this in last night. Spring football never has and never will work. When are these media corporations, when are they going to get this to their head? How many times, folks, have we seen other rival leagues or leagues pop up to try to challenge the major league sporting leagues like the NFL, like the NHL, like the NBA? And who always comes out on top? The NFL, the NBA, the NHL, MLB, MLS. So I could really care less what the XFL, though I applaud The Rock and Danny Garcia and Redbird Capital Partners. I applaud Fox for trying, but please get it through your head. The AAF didn't work. The USL has not worked. The USFL never worked. The XFL never worked. Case in point, football fatigue is a thing. I'm not saying that, folks, again, as someone who does not care for or watch or pays attention to the NFL product. I am saying this based off of a proven track record in history that other football leagues don't stand a chance whatsoever. In the words of Vince McMahon, you have no chance in hell to compete with the National Football League. Think back, folks, if you're old enough to remember, I think a lot of you out there are more qualified to remember this nonsense more than I am. Who out there remembers when the ABA and the NBA merged and they left out certain markets? You had a competing league with the ABA that was known for the three-point shot, trying to battle the NBA. Yes, the NBA was not what it was now as it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. The NHL and WHA fighting over television money. The WHA came to San Diego. They were adding teams close enough to NHL markets to try to lure people away from the National Hockey League. Yes, I know that the NHL is still steadfastly growing in the States right now. But again, the WHA got absorbed by the NHL, and some of their teams are in the NHL now. Until organizations are able to look back at the history of what has gone on with spring football, you would at least think that they would be smart enough to know, yeah, it might be great to have like a minor league pipeline for the NFL, but you're never going to top the NFL product. You can have all the different rules you want and stuff like that. You can try going back to NFL markets like San Diego or St. Louis. There is just no logical way to make spring football work. Because again, I do believe that football fatigue is real. Again, this is not coming like, get off my lawn. I don't want to talk the NFL, whatever. I don't care about the product though. I just think though, you have to look at your track record. The XFL was more of a sham of a promotion in 2001 to further get people invested in world wrestling entertainment post the early Attitude Era and stuff like that. But it wasn't actual football. It reminded me a lot of playing NFL brother when I would get crushed every game, like 73-0 every game. But it was more of like, you would just play, you're playing NFL Blitz because, you can legally body slam a guy after the play's over without there being penalties. You were basically allowed to go out there and practically assault somebody on the field and get away with it. That's what the XFL reminded me of back in 01. And then we had the AAF try to become that minor league, that minor league for the NFL. And they had payroll problems from the get-go. And they tried tapping back into San Diego and Arizona. They tried to, rekindle some great coaching legends of those cities like Mike Martz and Rick Neuheisel and stuff. But again, I went to one AAF game in San Diego when the Fleet were here. It was not the same. It was nowhere close to the NFL product. There may have been 25,000 fans there, but they probably all got in for free, honestly. They tried so hard to make it a thing. But again, it was at Qualcomm Stadium. It was nowhere close to what the Charger product used to be here for 53 years when they were in San Diego before they left for Los Angeles. But also, again, though, is I would even think the placement of teams is also a factor. You cannot be having, and though I may have totally just went totally off the page here by saying that maybe, MLB and a AAA ball club could coexist in Charlotte or in Vegas. But when you have the NFL, though, in markets like Las Vegas now and in Seattle, you cannot try to make football work year-round in those two markets. Especially, I think you can't do it in Vegas. Even though the Raiders are there, folks, I would still take the Vegas Golden Knights and the Las Vegas Aces any day of the week over a Raider football game. Again, this is not me saying this to crap upon the NFL, but again, who's been more successful in their time in Las Vegas? The Golden Knights have won a cup this past season. The Aces won a WNBA title in 2022. They're going for a repeat this year in 2023. Those are the two hot commodities. Though the NFL is still king of the American sports the American sports fan calendar, even the Seahawks are still a big thing up in Seattle. But again, though, the Kraken were in the conference final last season. The Mariners are going for back-to-back playoff berths for the first time, I think, ever in club history, after they broke the longest active MLB playoff drought last year at over 20 years. The Seattle Sounders are still a very well-known and highly competitive and well-run MLS organization that I don't think that you can try to make football work year-round in those specific markets, like Las Vegas, Houston, New Orleans even, I know the Pelicans aren't all that great, though, but still you have the Saints playing there. And I don't think that, and also I think, though, for this as well, though, folks, I don't think that spring football, once the utter embarrassment of seeing their teams like Houston, Vegas, Seattle, even, they don't want the embarrassment of seeing, these guys trying to make a name for themselves in the NFL, maybe, they don't want to see the spring teams get embarrassed playing at Allegiant Stadium or at Lumen Field or at NRG where the NFL teams play, because damn well probably they're only going to put fans in areas where the cameras are at to make it look like it's full. They won't show you the whole picture that right underneath the cameras, it's empty. That they will basically strategically put fans in those areas to make it look like it's sold out, when in reality, it's not. I don't think you want to run the risk of making yourself look embarrassed and foolish by trying to compete with the NFL because of what I had just listed. Because all the teams that were listed on that list that are like right now in murky water, shut them down. I think you would have to put teams without NFL football. San Diego, somewhere in Oregon, maybe try college towns like Boise, Mobile, maybe. The Birmingham Stallions, Birmingham Stallions had a pretty good following down there. But I don't think that you can run the risk and run being utterly humiliated and utterly embarrassed by trying to keep spring football alive. Though I know Jim Kelly came out of playing with the Gamblers in the 90s, and I think Steve Young came out of there. Other players came from spring football. I just don't think there's really a fan interest unless you put the teams in markets like St. Louis and San Diego. I mean, the Battlehawks, they were the major talk of the XFL when they were really, full-blown supporting the product. And I gave them a lot of praise back in February and March of this year when I was reading up that they had 35,000 people at a spring football game. That's, I think, the only way that you would be able to make spring football work is if you go to markets like San Diego, San Antonio, St. Louis, Milwaukee, markets without a NFL following. Because sadly, I just think that these leagues are going to succumb again to the NFL for like the fifth time ever, because they don't look at the past. They don't look at how WCW never made it big. They did, but they never were going to dethrone WWE. The ABA tried. They weren't going to dethrone the NBA. The WHA tried. They weren't going to dethrone the NHL. Competing leagugues never will get off the ground, in my opinion. And I have kind of felt that way too about indoor football, mainly here in San Diego. I've been a statistician been a statistician for the indoor football team here in San Diego. And it's just not the right product. And again, I don't want to make that sound harsh though, but it's just really tough, I think, folks, when a sport like the NFL leaves a market like San Diego and St. Louis. Yeah, you may have baseball or basketball or other sports around there. The NFL void is still being felt here in San Diego. And even in St. Louis, I'd even say too. But am I on board for the spring football merger? I'm not. And it's, again, the sheer fact of spring football is not going to work. It may work if you go to the right markets that are not in NFL cities. Again, Salt Lake City, San Diego, San Antonio, Texas, Salt Lake City, Birmingham, Alabama, places that don't have a big college football or NFL following might be the only markets I would even think about that would be able to prosper. I think that the league will shut down after a year or two because though money might be there with the TV contracts and stuff, though, fans are going to get burnt out on football being a year-round thing, I think, honestly. And if they keep trying to go to NFL markets already to try to compete or keep the football flame going all year round, it's not going to pan out. And it sucks that they have tried so hard and gotten so far. But in the end, it won't matter because the NFL, like I said, is going to still crush spring football. And again, year-round football fatigue is a major big hurdle. With that, folks, we will sign off here for today. We made it to the hour mark here this afternoon. We want to thank Adam Barber and Sean Mears for tuning in today. Again, folks, we'll be off. We'll be away, or off, I should say, with Press Row next Thursday and the following week after, due to, again, work commitments for me. So you'll see folks sometime in early October. But again, I'll still be here, though, on Kicking It and also on Sports Minute 2 when I have time, when my schedule allows. But again, we thank you all so much for joining us here today on this Thursday. Check back with us here, folks. Later on the night, we will have full-blown WWE and pro wrestling coverage back here later on this Thursday night with our Between the Ropes crew, coming your way at roughly 9 o'clock Pacific time, 11 o'clock Central this evening, back here on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, folks. Until next time, Callan McClurg bidding you and yours a pleasant rest of your day, and we'll see you back here in a couple of weeks, back here on C2C for Press Row in a few weeks, folks. Until next time, good day, and bye-bye.